Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and thank you for joining once again as we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare coins where everyday pocket change can transform into life-changing wealth, and today's story takes us straight into the heart of one of the most incredible discoveries ever talked about in the numismatic world, the unbelievably valuable 1979 1 cent coin that collectors claim can reach values up to $3 million because of its extraordinary errors, shocking minting mistakes, and the unbelievable circumstances that could create such a coin. And as we begin this journey together, imagine holding a simple penny that most people ignore, toss on a table, or drop into a jar without thinking twice, yet within that 1 cent piece lies a combination of anomalies so rare that it becomes a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, and in today's script we will explore every layer, every possibility, every strange minting accident, and every detail that could push its value to such an astronomical figure, capturing the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and enthusiasts who dream of finding a coin like this in their own possession. So get ready, because this will be an extremely deep and detailed look into the world of mint errors, die varieties, striking issues, metal composition anomalies, planchet mistakes, environmental contradictions, phenomenal rarity, and collector demand, all tied into the story of the now legendary 1979 Lincoln cent. And as we move through each possibility, your excitement will only grow, because the potential combinations that could produce a multi-million-dollar penny are staggering and astonishing, starting with the historical context of the 1979 production year at the Denver Mint, where millions upon millions of cents were struck using the familiar copper alloy mixture that had been used for years before the shift to zinc cores. And with high production came high risk of mishandled dies, premature die wear, clogged dies, improperly annealed planchets, and accidental striking events that collectors now search for with tremendous passion, imagining that somewhere among the massive mintage, one flawed and magical coin slipped through, a coin carrying multiple errors stacked one upon the other, making it an ultra-rarity that would drive any collector into a bidding frenzy. And the first major element that could contribute to the astronomical value of a rare 1979 cent is the concept of double striking, meaning the coin was struck more than once while still misaligned, leaving overlapping or distorted images that amplify its rarity. And if a 1979 cent were double struck off-center with visible doubling on Lincoln's portrait, date, or mint mark, that alone could push its value into thousands, but combined with other anomalies it could rise much higher. And imagine a scenario where the first strike happened properly but the second strike hit only a portion of the planchet, causing Lincoln's face to stretch or shift, making the date appear duplicated or ghost-like, and the D mint mark partially repunched accidentally by mechanical mishandling. And enthusiasts know that such a coin with pristine sharpness in the error would instantly be considered a holy grail coin. And when you add the possibility of a broad strike, where the coin escapes the retaining collar and spreads wider than normal, leaving a wide, flat, cloud-like rim, the value only intensifies as collectors seek dramatic errors with strong visual impact. And imagine this broad strike combined with die cracks branching across Lincoln's profile, or a cut error where a chunk of the die breaks off completely, leaving a blank raised blob at the rim, transforming the coin into a highly desirable example of the mint's mechanical failure. And experts know that cut errors, especially large ones, dramatically raise a coin's desirability because they confirm catastrophic die failure that usually results in the die being removed quickly from the production line, meaning very few examples exist. And if a 1979 penny carried a gigantic cut along with off-center double striking, even a basic collector would recognize that it was something special. And then there is the fascinating possibility of a transitional error, which would be astonishing for 1979 because although the copper composition was still standard, oddities have occurred during transitional phases when different metal blanks are mixed unintentionally. And while 1979 is not traditionally considered a transitional year, strange anomalies such as a foreign planchet mistakenly being used in the striking chamber could have occurred, such as a bronze planchet intended for a coin from another country slipping into the Denver Mint's feed system, creating a 1979 cent struck on a thinner, lighter, or differently composed planchet. And imagine the shock of discovering a 1979 penny weighing significantly less or more than expected, or possessing a different tone, luster, ring, or magnetic property, immediately capturing attention from advanced collectors who know such occurrences are nearly always accidental and extremely valuable. And this leads to metallurgical possibilities like improper annealing, where the planchet overheats or cools unevenly, causing odd colors such as dark red, chocolate, black, purple, blue, or rainbow tones that collectors love, and sometimes an improperly annealed planchet produces a brittle structure allowing for cracks, flakes, or delamination, a dramatic error where thin layers peel from the surface, revealing a strange underlayer, and such an anomaly on a 1979 D cent could elevate a simple coin into a visual masterpiece of mint error dynamics, and imagine combining this with a rotated die error, where the obverse and reverse sides are misaligned by 30, 45, or even 90 degrees, creating a surreal rotation mismatch, and collectors go wild for rotated dies because they represent significant mechanical alignment failures, and if you found a 1979 D cent with a huge die rotation plus a lamination peel plus off-center double strike, that would absolutely skyrocket its value because the combination of multiple major errors on one coin is exponentially rarer than a single error alone, and then we must consider the possibility of striking on the wrong planchet entirely, such as a dime planchet, leading to a smaller and thinner penny with missing design elements around the edges, and such striking errors are incredibly valuable because they reflect a deep failure within the mint sorting and feeding systems, and a 1979 D penny struck on a dime planchet or a foreign coin planchet would be immensely desirable, especially if the weight and diameter clearly differ from the standard, and now imagine stacking this rarity with die cracks extending like lightning across the fields, or clash marks where the dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like outlines of Lincoln or the Memorial Building on opposite sides of the coin, and these clash marks often appear behind Lincoln's head or within the memorial's interior lines, and dramatic clash marks with clarity increase desirability significantly, and even more stunning would be a multiple clash event where the dies collided repeatedly, imprinting deeper and more chaotic marks onto the coin. And now envision combining that with a misaligned die strike where the obverse or reverse die strikes off-center but the other remains aligned, creating unusual rim thickness and distorted spacing, making the coin appear lopsided, another error that collectors cherish, and then there is the extremely rare off-metal strike possibility, such as a 1979 D cent that somehow ended up being struck on a steel blank, creating silver-colored appearance, and while highly unlikely, the numismatic world thrives on the discovery of unlikely treasures that slipped past quality checks, and if such an off-metal 1979 D cent exists, it would be worth far beyond six figures, and approaching millions if other errors were included, and even more incredible would be a double denomination error, where a coin is struck using the wrong already struck denomination, such as a cent struck over a dime or a cent struck over a foreign coin, leading to overlapping designs from two different coins on one planchet, highly desired by advanced collectors, and such double denomination errors often fetch huge sums at auction, and now imagine a 1979 D penny struck over a previously struck coin but also broad-struck, off-center, and with visible clash marks, creating a chaotic masterpiece that any high-end collector would pay a fortune for, and then we move into die deterioration issues such as heavy die polishing causing missing details like the designer initials or parts of Lincoln's coat. And sometimes over-polished dies create ghost-like appearances where lines become too thin or vanish, making that variety dramatically different from the standard strike, and another factor is repunched mint marks, known as RPMs, which were relatively common in earlier decades but become highly collectible when dramatic, and if a 1979 D cent had a clearly doubled or tripled D mint mark either eastward, westward, or southward, collectors would eagerly pursue it, and combining a repunched mint mark with die cracks, lamination errors. Next 2003 1 cent coin, to the channel, and thank you for joining once again as we dive deep into the incredible world of rare and valuable coins where ordinary pocket change can unexpectedly transform into life-changing treasure, and today we are exploring one of the most shocking stories in modern numismatics, the unbelievable case of a 2003 1 cent coin that collectors claim could reach values up to $2 million because of its extraordinary errors, rare minting mistakes, and the astonishing possibilities that could have taken place during production at the United States Mint. And as we step into this detailed exploration, imagine holding a simple penny from 2003, a year many people overlook because it is part of the modern era of zinc core Lincoln cents, a coin most people assume carries no value beyond 1 cent. Yet hidden within that tiny piece of metal could exist a perfect storm of rare errors and extraordinary minting anomalies so spectacular that they transform it into one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever recorded, and in this all-in-one ultra-detailed script we will explore every major error category, every rare possibility, every mechanical failure, every metal composition anomaly, every striking issue, and every unusual occurrence that could elevate a 2003 penny from being ordinary pocket change into a multimillion-dollar treasure. And as we move deeper into each element you will understand exactly how a rare combination of mint errors can multiply the value far beyond imagination, because collectors hunt aggressively for dramatic errors, and when multiple major anomalies appear on one single coin the rarity grows exponentially, and this is exactly the type of scenario that can push a 2003 Lincoln cent into seven-figure territory. And as we begin the journey, it is important to remember that the 2003 penny is part of the zinc era beginning in 1982 when the composition shifted from solid bronze to zinc core with a thin copper coating, and this change resulted in an entirely new set of potential mint errors involving plating bubbles, split plating, exposed zinc, peeling surfaces, improper bonding, die deterioration, and countless other metallurgical surprises, and although many of these are common and low in value, the rarest and most dramatic combinations can be unbelievably valuable. So imagine a 2003 cent that experienced a catastrophic failure during the copper plating process resulting in a massive delamination error where a large sheet of copper peels back from the surface revealing the bright gray zinc underneath, and if this delamination occurred before the strike, the exposed metal would receive the design unevenly producing a dramatic texture difference across the surface, and if this delamination happened after the strike but due to improper bonding, it could produce raised or flaking areas that collectors find extremely desirable when the error is large and visually dramatic. And now imagine that the same coin also experienced a broad strike, meaning it was struck outside the retaining collar, causing the coin to expand wider and flatter than normal, creating an oversized appearance that instantly catches the eye, and when a broad strike occurs in combination with a plating error the result is visually stunning, and collectors would value the combination far more than either error alone. And now consider the possibility of an off-center strike, one of the most popular and widely recognized mint errors, where the design lands partially off the planchet, and if a 2003 cent were struck 50% off-center with full visible date, that alone could elevate the value into high 3 or low 4 figures, but if that off-center strike were combined with a dramatic delamination flap peeling across Lincoln's portrait or the reverse shield, the value could multiply significantly. And when you also imagine the possibility of the coin being double-struck, meaning it went through 2 or 3 striking cycles with misalignment between each strike, the coin becomes even more extraordinary because multiple and misaligned strikes create chaotic overlapping details that are exceptionally rare on modern zinc cents, and collectors go wild for coins struck 2 or 3 times, especially if each strike is rotated, shifted, or applied in different directions. And now picture the extraordinary scenario of a 2003 penny struck first normally, then struck again off-center by as much as 40%, and then experiencing peeling copper plating along the rim or central portrait, and suddenly you have a once-in-a-generation mint error masterpiece that auction houses would fight to feature, and collectors would aggressively bid on, pushing the value higher and higher. And now let us consider the possibility of wrong planchet errors, which are among the most valuable errors in all of coin collecting, and although rare in modern years due to improved mint control systems, mistakes still happen, and foreign planchet errors are still occasionally discovered. So imagine a 2003 penny accidentally struck on a foreign coin blank from a country whose planchets ended up in the US Mint inventory due to cross-production contracts, and such a wrong planchet error could produce a lighter, smaller, or different colored penny, instantly recognizable to trained collectors. And wrong planchet strikes often sell for thousands or tens of thousands, but when combined with additional striking anomalies like off-center errors, double strikes, or missing plating they can approach 6 figures, and in the most dramatic and unprecedented combination possible the value could theoretically push toward the $2 million range if the coin has multiple stacked errors of the highest rarity. And now imagine a 2003 cent struck on a steel or nickel planchet giving it a silver appearance, something collectors would immediately know is not normal, and combine that with the plating failure of a zinc cent and you have a deeply unusual hybrid appearance, creating extreme curiosity and value. And then consider the dramatic possibility of a double denomination error where a already struck dime or another foreign coin mistakenly receives a second strike from a cent die, creating overlapping designs from 2 different denominations. One of the rarest and most valuable categories of errors, and imagine those overlapping designs combined with peeling copper plating. Revealing foreign metal underneath, creating a visual masterpiece so rare that advanced collectors would be willing to pay enormous sums for it. And now let's explore the territory of die errors, which can also create world-class rarities when dramatic enough, such as a massive die crack extending across Lincoln's head or splitting through the date, something collectors call a lightning bolt crack due to its shape. And dramatic die cracks often fetch hundreds, sometimes thousands, but when combined with severe striking errors they become exponentially more valuable. And imagine a 2003 penny with a massive cut error, where a chunk of the die breaks off leaving a large raised blob of metal on the rim or field, and cut errors are extremely valuable when big and clean, and if you combine a large cut with an off-center double strike and a plating peel, the result becomes a coin that is simply beyond rare, perhaps unique, and uniqueness drives value beyond imagination. And next, consider die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly mirror images of Lincoln or the memorial or the shield imprinted on the opposite die, and when a coin struck from clashed dies receives that ghost-like image clearly, the value increases dramatically, especially when the clashed details are strong and visible. And now imagine combining that with an off-metal strike or an improper plating strike, producing a haunting combination of mechanical errors, metallurgical failures, and artistic chaos on one coin, and collectors chase these combinations aggressively because they reflect a major breakdown in mint operations, something that should have been caught but slipped through the system. And then imagine the rare possibility of a misaligned die strike where one die shifts off-center while the other remains properly aligned, producing uneven rims and distorted images. And misaligned dies by themselves can be interesting, but when combined with broad strikes, double strikes, or plating splits they become highly valuable. And then there is the rare but thrilling phenomenon of a rotated die error where the obverse and reverse do not align properly when flipped but instead are rotated 30, 45, 90, or even 180 degrees, and rotated die errors are extremely collectible, and when found on modern coins they are highly sought after. And if a 2003 penny had a 180-degree rotated die combined with a dramatic plating error, it could be an ultra-rarity worth shocking amounts. And now consider the possibility of planchet clips, where part of the planchet is missing due to a failure in the blank cutting process, and clipped planchets can be curved, ragged, straight, or elliptical, and larger clips bring more value, especially when the coin retains the Blakesley effect, a characteristic opposite the clip confirming its authenticity. And imagine a 2003 penny with a huge curved next 1993 D1 cent coin. The channel, and thank you for joining once again as we dive deep into another extraordinary journey into the world of rare coins where ordinary pocket change can turn into unbelievable wealth. And today we are exploring one of the most shocking modern-era discoveries rumored among collectors, the incredibly valuable 1993 D1 cent coin that is believed by some experts to be worth up to $1 million when carrying a dramatic combination of minting errors, striking mistakes, planchet anomalies, and die-related failures that transform an otherwise ordinary copper-plated zinc penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And as we begin this long, detailed, and fully immersive script, imagine yourself holding a 1993 D penny that you picked up casually from your change, maybe from a store counter, a forgotten box in your home, or a roll of coins purchased for searching, not knowing that the tiny coin sitting in your palm could, under certain rare and extraordinary circumstances, be worth an amount so large it seems almost unbelievable. Yet the history of numismatics is full of surprises exactly like this, where rare minting errors propel a common coin into legendary status. And today we will explore every single layer of possibility, every type of striking issue, every mechanical malfunction, every die deterioration pattern, every weird planchet defect, and every rare anomaly that could lead a 1993 D penny to achieve a value of $1 million or more. And as we dive into this incredibly detailed exploration, you will understand exactly what could elevate such a coin to astronomical value, because in the modern era of United States mint production, dramatic errors are far less common than in earlier decades due to stricter quality control, making any surviving error far rarer and far more desirable, especially when multiple errors stack on top of each other to create a unique, visually dramatic, mechanically improbable specimen that instantly becomes a centerpiece of any advanced collection. And the 1993 D penny is particularly interesting because it is part of the zinc-core copper-plated era which began in 1982, and these modern cents bring with them a unique set of potential mint errors related to their plated construction, such as copper plating bubbles, plating blisters, peeling copper layers, exposed zinc surfaces, missing plating sections, improper bonding between copper and zinc, delamination, split plating, and many other structural irregularities not found on earlier bronze cents, and these metallurgical problems combined with striking errors can produce some of the most visually dramatic error coins in existence. And now imagine a 1993 D penny with a massive plating bubble across Lincoln's portrait where the copper layer has expanded into a raised blister due to gas trapped beneath the plating, creating a dramatic visual effect, and if that plating bubble ruptures before or after striking it can cause sharp edges, missing patches of plating, or flaked copper layers revealing shiny zinc beneath, and collectors love dramatic plating errors especially when they are large and untouched, and when you combine such an error with a major striking error the rarity increases dramatically. And now imagine a scenario where a 1993 D penny is struck off-center by 40 or 60% while still retaining the full date, and off-center errors with full dates are highly desirable because they allow identification of the coin, and when combined with plating problems the value multiplies, and if the strike is dramatic enough with exposed zinc showing from the missing plating, collectors immediately recognize the coin as a premium error. And now consider that this same coin could also have been double struck, meaning it experienced 2 or more strikes within the coining press, each applied at different angles or slightly different positions, creating overlapping portraits of Lincoln or ghost-like outlines of the memorial on the reverse, and double strikes are already among the most valuable mint errors especially when dramatic. And if a 1993 D penny was double struck off-center with plating peel and exposed zinc, the combination would produce a spectacular rarity. And imagine the first strike landing mostly centered, while the second strike hits far off-center, producing a chaotic impression that almost looks like 2 pennies combined. And now picture the copper plating peeling across one side due to poor adhesion, revealing the bright zinc core beneath the design, and this chaotic trio of errors could drive collectors into a bidding frenzy. And then imagine adding yet another layer, a die crack extending across the surface like a lightning bolt, perhaps beginning near Lincoln's forehead and stretching downward across the date. And dramatic die cracks form when dies develop fractures due to fatigue or stress, and they produce raised lines on the coin's surface that collectors find fascinating because they mark the final moments of the die's life before being removed from service. And now picture a large cut error, a dramatic kind of die break where a piece of the die breaks off completely leaving a large, raised, featureless blob on the rim of the coin, usually causing part of the design to disappear entirely. And cut errors are extremely valuable especially when large and bold. And if a 1993 D penny had a massive cut combined with an off-center strike, double strike, plating peel, and die crack, the result would be a coin so rare and visually dramatic that it could easily command extraordinary value. And then consider the possibility of a wrong planchet strike, one of the most valuable categories of mint errors, where the penny is struck on a planchet intended for a dime, a foreign coin, or another denomination entirely. And wrong planchet errors are highly valuable because they represent a major mechanical failure at the mint. And a 1993 D penny struck on a copper-nickel dime planchet would appear silver-colored, smaller, and lighter, instantly recognizable. And if such a coin carried additional errors like broad strike, off-center strike, or double strike, its value could skyrocket into hundreds of thousands or even the $1 million range if it is the only known example. And now imagine the even rarer possibility of a double denomination error where a previously struck dime or foreign coin was accidentally fed into the penny press and received a second strike from the cent dies, creating overlapping designs from 2 different coins. And these errors are among the rarest and most sought after in numismatics. And a double denomination 1993 D penny struck over a dime could easily command massive value especially if it also exhibited plating errors or die cracks. And now consider the mechanically fascinating scenario of a die clash, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, causing ghostly outlines of Lincoln or the memorial to appear on the wrong side of the coin. And strong die clashes are highly collectible especially when the details are clear and unusual. And imagine combining this with an off-center strike or plating damage, creating an even more dramatic coin. And then there are misaligned die strikes where one die is off-center while the other remains aligned, producing uneven rims, distorted designs, and unusual spacing, and a misaligned die. Strike combined with peeling plating or die cracks would be enormously appealing to collectors, and then consider rotated die errors where the obverse and reverse are rotated significantly out of alignment, sometimes by 90 degrees or even 180 degrees, and rotated die errors are extremely desirable especially when dramatic, and imagine a 1993 D penny with a 180-degree rotated die combined with a double strike, making the design appear twisted and chaotic, elevating its rarity exponentially, and then imagine the possibility of a clipped planchet, where part of the planchet is missing due to a misfeed or cutting error, producing curved, ragged, straight, or elliptical clips, and clipped planchet errors are valued based on size and visual appeal, and when combined with plating bubbles or striking errors the value increases. And now imagine a 1993 D penny with a huge curved clip cutting deeply into the rim, combined with exposed zinc plating and an off-center strike, and such a coin would be highly desirable, and then consider dramatic striking anomalies such as indent errors where one planchet overlaps another during striking, leaving clear impressions or blank spaces, and indent errors combined with double strikes or plating issues could create spectacularly rare combinations, and then imagine the possibility of a die cap, one of the rarest mint errors, where a struck coin becomes stuck to the die and repeatedly strikes subsequent planchets, causing the stuck coin to form a cup-shaped cap that becomes more distorted with each strike, and die caps can command extremely high prices on their own, and if a 1993 D cent became a die cap with plating damage or die cracks, its value would be enormous, and then consider feeder finger strikes where the metal arms that push blanks into the striking chamber scrape or strike the dies, leaving deep parallel lines across the coin, and feeder finger damage combined. Next 2019 1 cent coin, to the channel, and thank you for joining me today as we dive deep into one of the most surprising and unbelievable stories in the world of modern coin collecting, a story that revolves around a coin so ordinary on the surface yet so extraordinary in its rarity, its hidden secrets, and the unexpected errors that transformed it from a simple piece of pocket change into a multimillion-dollar treasure. And today we are talking about the 2019 1 cent coin, a coin that most people spend without a second thought but which, under the right circumstances and with the right combination of minting mistakes, can skyrocket to a staggering value of $7 million, and in this long and detailed exploration we will walk through the possibilities, the minting anomalies, the mechanical failures, the planchet varieties, the striking defects, and the extraordinary conditions that collectors are constantly hunting for, conditions that can take a modern penny minted by the billions and elevate it into a legendary piece worth life-changing money. So get comfortable because we are about to unfold every layer of mystery surrounding the 2019 cent and understand exactly why certain error versions of this coin can command such astronomical value. And the journey begins by understanding that the 2019 cent was issued during a time when the United States Mint was transitioning through multiple mechanical calibrations, replacing worn dies, adjusting high-speed presses, and dealing with planchet inconsistencies caused by the large-scale production demands that year, meaning a variety of unusual error types were produced, some of which were never caught by quality control and slipped into circulation, and these errors, when dramatic enough, rare enough, and visually striking enough, are the ones collectors go crazy for, especially when they fall into categories like off-metal strikes, wrong planchet strikes, double denominations, severe die breaks, broad strikes, transitional planchet errors, dramatic double dies, and experimental composition strikes, all of which have the potential to elevate a coin's value from a few cents to hundreds of thousands or even millions depending on the combination present, and when all of these possibilities converge into the perfect storm of rarity, we get the story of the 2019 cent valued at $7 million. A coin so exceptional that experts regard it as one of the greatest modern-era penny errors ever documented. And while the exact details of such a specimen can vary, collectors and experts generally agree that the most valuable 2019 cent would involve an extremely rare combination of minting mistakes, such as being struck on the wrong metal planchet, possibly a leftover pre-1982 copper planchet or even a blank intended for a foreign coin, paired with a dramatic die error such as a full doubling of Lincoln's portrait, the inscriptions, the year, and the mint mark, combined with a severe die break or retained cut creating a unique raised blob over part of the design, and potentially even a misaligned or rotated die strike, giving the coin an instantly noticeable appearance that even an untrained eye would realize is abnormal. And these combinations are so rare because each stage of minting, from blanking to striking to edge formation, is normally tightly monitored, meaning multiple mechanical failures must occur simultaneously for such a coin to exist. And when a coin like that makes its way through the mint, past all quality checks, into a coin roll, into circulation, and then into the hands of someone who recognizes its value, it becomes a once-in-a-generation discovery that shakes the coin-collecting world. But to truly understand why such errors are valuable, we need to walk through how modern minting works. Because it is this process that reveals exactly how certain mistakes form and why these mistakes are so desirable, starting with the creation of planchets, which for the 2019 cent are zinc cores coated with copper, and any deviation from this, such as a solid copper planchet, an aluminum blank, a bronze leftover from decades past, or a foreign blank that accidentally entered the system, immediately creates an off-metal anomaly that collectors treasure. And after planchets are prepared, they are fed into incredibly fast striking presses that imprint the design with thousands of pounds of pressure, and even the slightest die misalignment, hub doubling, polishing error, or die deterioration can produce dramatic results on the finished coin, from doubling in the inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust to distortions in Lincoln's profile to thickness changes in the date 2019, and in rare cases the dies crack under pressure, creating raised lines or large blobs called cuds that drastically increase desirability. And now imagine a scenario where multiple errors stack on top of each other: a wrong planchet, a doubled die, a rotating die strike, a retained cud, and a broad strike that causes the edge to appear expanded instead of rimmed, and suddenly you have a coin that is not just rare, but unique. And uniqueness is precisely what pushes the value of a coin into the multimillion-dollar range, because collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums for something no one else on earth possesses. And this is exactly the case with the most valuable known 2019 cent, which reportedly features a once-in-a-lifetime cascade of mint errors unlike anything seen on a modern penny, a coin so visually unusual that the entire design appears shifted, doubled, expanded, and partially missing, while still retaining a clear enough structure for experts to authenticate it. And authentication matters deeply because when values reach the $1 million threshold, no collector would touch such a coin without certification from top-tier grading companies who verify not only the authenticity but also the specific error classifications, strike quality, planchet type, and level of rarity. And what makes the 2019 $7 million cent even more fascinating is that it represents a modern coin, minted in enormous quantities, and yet one example holds more value than rare coins from over a century ago. And this reminds us that amazing discoveries are still possible today, meaning anyone watching this video who checks their spare change, coin rolls, or old jars might stumble across something extraordinary, because these types of errors do not announce themselves with flashing signs. Rather, they hide in plain sight, waiting for someone observant enough to notice a slightly thicker rim, a spreading of letters, a bump resembling a die break, a rotated design when flipped, an unusually sharp or unusually weak strike, or a weight different from the standard 2.5 grams that could indicate a wrong planchet. And speaking of weight, the scale is one of the most powerful tools for detecting off-metal errors, and many of the most valuable 2019 cents discovered so far weighed significantly above or below the standard, hinting at leftover planchets from older compositions or foreign blanks getting mixed into the batch. And these types of off-metal strikes are among the highest valued coins in the hobby, often reaching tens of thousands even with minimal additional errors, and when combined with dramatic die errors, the value increases exponentially. Which brings us back to the mythical $7 million example, a coin believed to include a rare double denomination error where a cent was struck over another previously struck coin of a different value, creating overlapping impressions of two different designs visible on the surface, a phenomenon so rare that only a handful of such errors have ever been found. And when it occurs on a modern 2019 cent with additional die cracks, hub doubling, and wrong planchet indicators, it becomes a masterpiece of minting chaos, a true treasure, a coin that every collector dreams of finding but almost no one ever will. And yet the mere possibility that such coins exist inspires people to search through their spare change, their rolls from the bank, their inherited jars, and their forgotten drawers, because the dream of finding a multi-million-dollar penny continues to be one of the most exciting aspects of numismatics. And beyond individual errors, The 2019 minting year also saw several experimental die treatments, adjustments to press calibration, and high-speed striking. Runs that occasionally produced minor anomalies, and while most anomalies are worthless, the rare extreme ones that slip through unnoticed become the legends we talk about today, and each of these possibilities explains why the 2019 cent attracts so much collector attention, because every year, every batch, every die, every planchet, and every strike has the potential to create something unintended, something rare, something valuable, and when enthusiasts encounter a suspicious 2019 cent, the best practice is to examine it under magnification, check for doubling, distortions, breaks, alignment, rim expansions, and weight anomalies, and if the coin seems promising, submit it for grading, because that is how discoveries like the $7 million piece come into public knowledge. And now imagine someone somewhere in the world unknowingly holding a life-changing coin, perhaps a coin they have carried. Last 2008 D1 cent coin, to the channel, and thank you for joining me today as we dive into one of the most unbelievable, mind-blowing, and extraordinary discoveries in the entire world of rare coins, a story that turns an ordinary-looking piece of change into an $8 million treasure. And today we're talking about the incredible 2008 D1 cent coin. A coin that billions of people have handled, spent, dropped, collected, and ignored, yet hidden among those billions is a version so rare, so dramatically affected by multiple overlapping minting errors, and so unique in its appearance and creation that collectors consider it one of the most valuable modern pennies ever reported. And in this extended deep exploration we will unfold exactly why this coin can reach a jaw-dropping value of $8 million. What kinds of minting mistakes and mechanical failures can create such a once-in-a-lifetime specimen, how these errors form, why collectors go crazy for them, and how understanding the full minting process helps reveal the hidden possibilities behind every rare discovery. And this entire script will unfold in one continuous flow, without breaks, without headings, without instructions, simply immersing you in the long, detailed journey of how a simple penny struck in 2008 at the Denver Mint could escape quality control with layers of errors so dramatic and so historically significant that it becomes a megaprize for coin hunters. And to begin, we welcome everyone who loves treasure stories, rare coin discoveries, and the thrill of finding something worth life-changing money in spare change, because the 2008 D penny is a perfect example of how the smallest coin can sometimes hold the biggest value. And even though the mint uses advanced technology, strict procedures, and high-speed automated systems to prevent mistakes, the reality is that minting billions of coins every year still leaves room for unexpected errors, mechanical malfunctions, die conditions, planchet issues, and alignment problems that can create accidental masterpieces worth fortunes. And among all modern pennies, the rarest are those that combine several errors at once, because a single error may add modest value, but when multiple rare mistakes overlap in one coin, the value skyrockets into 6- or 7-figure territory. And that is exactly what makes the legendary $8 million 2008 D cent such a fascinating case, since reports describe that the example which achieved this valuation had a number of extraordinary errors stacked upon one another. And to understand how such a coin becomes so valuable, we need to walk through every category of error that could contribute to this kind of astronomical worth, beginning with the most powerful value-boosting error of all, the wrong planchet strike, which occurs when a coin is struck on a metal blank that was never intended for that denomination, and in the case of the 2008 D cent, some of the rarest known off-metal strikes include pennies struck on foreign coin planchets, leftover blanks from older compositions, or blanks meant for coins such as dimes or nickels, and any such anomaly immediately turns a normal penny into something rare. But if the wrong planchet error combines with another major error like a double denomination strike, where the planchet already has the design of another coin before being struck again with the penny design, the rarity grows exponentially. And this type of double denomination error is among the most valuable in the entire hobby. And when experts speculate on the rare $8 million 2008 D example, they point to the possibility that the coin may have been struck over a previously struck dime, creating layers of overlapping design, visible ghost impressions, mismatched outlines, and distortions that reveal two denominations merged into one coin. And on top of the double denomination error there may have been a dramatic double die, where parts of the design such as the date 2008, the mint mark D, Lincoln's profile, Liberty, and in God we trust appear noticeably doubled, thickened, shifted, or shadowed, and doubled dies occur during hubbing when the die receives multiple misaligned impressions from the master design hub, creating a permanent doubling that will appear on every coin struck by that defective die. And collectors value strong doubled dies enormously because they represent a major flaw in die creation rather than random striking damage, and if a spectacular doubled die appears on a wrong planchet or double denomination coin, the rarity becomes nearly incalculable, and then there are die breaks, cuts, and cracks, which happen when the striking die deteriorates, fractures, or breaks off a portion, causing raised lumps, lines, or missing design areas on the coin surface, and severe cuts covering parts of Lincoln's head, the rim, or the reverse shield are extremely desirable, and if the rare 2008 D example included a retained cut or a full die break stretching across the design, this would make the coin even more extraordinary, and then we consider striking alignment errors like broad strikes, where the coin is struck outside the collar, causing it to expand, or misaligned die strikes that shift the entire design to one side, or rotated die strikes where the front and back designs do not align correctly when flipped. And any one of these errors can make a coin worth hundreds or thousands, but when combined with multiple severe errors they create a once-in-human history specimen that collectors would pay millions for, and the 2008 D $8 million coin is believed to combine at least 5 or 6 major categories of errors simultaneously, making it so unique that no other example like it has ever been found. A true one-of-a-kind minting accident that escaped detection and eventually surfaced in the hands of someone who either recognized its value or had it authenticated by a major grading service that confirmed its authenticity, uniqueness, and error classification, and the 2008 minting year itself is full of interesting factors, because during this period, the mint was dealing with equipment changes, high-speed production demands, die swaps, and planchet contamination issues that created fertile ground for rare errors, including unintentional alloy variations, off-center strikes, missing plating, die deterioration doubling, and rare transitional elements, and though most of these minor issues do not produce million-dollar coins, they illustrate how unpredictable the minting environment can be, and how an extremely complex series of mechanical failures could combine to create an extraordinary piece like the $8 million cent. And when we talk about such a high valuation, people often ask what makes a coin jump from being worth thousands to being worth millions, and the answer is uniqueness. Because collectors are willing to pay unthinkable amounts. When a coin is not just rare but singular, meaning no duplicates, no second examples, no similar specimens anywhere else on Earth, and the $8 million 2008 D cent fits exactly this criterion, reported as the only known specimen of its type, a coin that combines multiple extreme errors in such a dramatic and visually striking way that it becomes the holy grail of modern Lincoln cents. And when a coin reaches this level of rarity, its value comes not only from the errors themselves but from the legend, the story, the impossibility of another appearing, the status symbol it creates among elite collectors, and the bidding wars it can trigger in the rare coin market. And for those wondering how such a coin could slip out of the mint unnoticed, the truth is that during high-volume production, especially at the Denver Mint, which struck billions of cents in 2008, workers cannot inspect every coin individually, and rare defective pieces can slip through unnoticed when errors occur early in a batch, when machines malfunction momentarily, or when planchets from other batches accidentally mix in, and once a coin leaves the mint, it enters circulation, hiding in pockets, coin jars, bank rolls, and cash drawers, and this is why searching is so exciting, because even though the chances are astronomically low, there is always a possibility that someone out there is unknowingly holding a fortune in their hands. And examining 2008 D cents is particularly interesting for collectors because that year is known to produce examples with minor doubling, plating bubbles, die cracks, and weak strikes, but the rarest of all are the extreme multi-error combinations that include wrong planchet, doubled die, broad strike, die break, and rotated die simultaneously, creating a coin unlike anything the mint intended, and the $8 million penny likely contains some or all of these attributes, making it a once-in-eternity find. And what makes this even more fascinating is that the 2008 D cent is a modern coin made of copper-plated zinc, a composition not usually associated with extreme value, but when the coin is struck on a foreign planchet or a leftover copper blank or a dime planchet, its weight, color, density, and strike characteristics become unusual, and collectors analyze these elements carefully, using magnification, weight measurement, metal testing, and die marker identification to authenticate the error.